Good morning, students. Welcome back to your history video lecture. In the last class, we studied about the origin story of the caste system. Then we looked on to how Brahmins ensured that these rules regarding the appropriate functioning of caste system was codified in texts such as Dharma Sutras or Dharma Shastra. Then we finally looked into the strategies adopted by Brahmins to ensure that this fourfold division was followed by the book. One such strategy was to instill in the minds of common people that the caste they are born in is determined by birth, and that is based on their past life actions too. So this entire idea got reinforced when it was told through the medium of stories, especially the Mahabharata. So if you look at the source 7 in your NCERT, it talks about the proper social code of conduct that was supposed to be followed by the people of different varna or caste, and the roles and behavior those communities or people should have followed who did not fall into this fourfold caste category. So if you read this excerpt, you will come across terms and names which you might already have been familiar with in your lower classes. Okay, it's the story of Drona and Eklavya and his sacrifice. So what the stories wants to convey is that the Nishad community, which was primarily a hunting gathering community, they derived their livelihood from hunting. Hunting generally किससे होता है? Either through bow and arrow or through spears. So these people, they could derive their livelihood. They could be good or well versed with the art of archery. But according to the Brahmanical norm, only a Kshatriya was entitled to become or gain the knowledge that could make him the greatest archer in the world. Since it was the social order of Kshatriya which demanded them to be exceptional in warfare. Therefore, Eklavya, being a member of Nishad community, was not entitled to usurp or take over the power which was reserved for the Kshatriya. This is the idea which this excerpt wants to convey. So if you go through this, you will understand how each and every varna or different social categories had well defined rules according to Brahmanical tradition. Now that we have spoken about the norms that were supposed to be followed, let us look at the other aspect of it, that is the deviation from these norms. Okay, just as I have already told this in another video lecture that अगर rules है तो exception भी होगा. So there are rules about the caste system and the ideal occupation to be followed by each caste. So there has to be exception to this rule too. So let us look into these exceptions one by one. Okay, so starting with the Mauryas. We have already studied a bit about Mauryas and how they were the first ruling dynasty to create a pan-India empire. So politically they were very powerful, but when it came to their social origin, there has been a lot of debate among historians as no clear picture is given in any textbook. Whatever these texts of those period try to tell, it is very contradictory in nature. For example, the Brahmanical texts, they keep on telling the fact that the Mauryas were of low origin. मतलब caste hierarchy में उनका low origin था. Whereas the Buddhist text, they suggest that Mauryas were of Kshatriya origin. Now, why do you think this was done so? See, one thing that comes to my mind is that The rulers of Maurya dynasty, as we have already seen, especially Ashoka, he patronized the Buddhist religion. So if you're doing something for that religion, obviously that religious institution or that religion will ensure to portray you in good light. Next, we come across the next ruling dynasty. It is that of Shungas and Kanvas. Okay, so the Shunga, if you remember, this dynasty was established when the last scion of the Mauryan dynasty was assassinated by his own minister known as Pushyamitra Sunga, who became the founder of Shunga dynasty. Now, this Pushyamitra Sunga was of Brahmanical origin. He was a Brahmin himself. So he established a dynasty which was replete with Brahmins. So this is a deviation from norm. The first one also, Mauryas not being Kshatriya, was a deviation from norm. Then the Shungas not being Kshatriya but being Brahman is also a deviation from the norm. So right after the Shungas, we have the Kanvas as the successors. So this dynasty did not rule for a very long time, and they have a very little impact in long span of history. That is why they are not given so much importance. But one thing that we need to keep in mind is the Kanva dynasty was also ruled by Brahmins. So this again is a deviation from the norm. So basically what we are seeing, that the reality was starkly different from what was prescribed in the book. If you went by the book, who should have been the king? It was the Kshatriyas. But here we are seeing examples of dynasties after dynasties where the king or the emperor was not a Kshatriya ruler. So it showcased the fact that whoever had the strength to claim the political power, it was that person who would be the king or the emperor, rather than depending on the circumstances of the birth. So how do we categorize those kings or dynasties which did not originate in the soil of Indian subcontinent? Okay, we have already seen examples of few such dynasties. The first one being the Indo-Greeks, which ruled the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. Okay, it was after the downfall of Indo-Greeks that the Shakas as ruling dynasties replaced them and established them around Indus and its territories. So these people, they did not fit into the social order which was given in Brahmanical texts. They were outside the social orders. Okay, so they were given a specific term for that, which is called Malech. But just because they were outsiders, it doesn't diminish the fact that they were very powerful rulers too. For example, there is an instance of a very powerful Shaka ruler known as Rudradaman, who repaired the Sudarshan lake, which was built by King Chakravartin Ashok during the Mauryan period. So this statement is basically implying that even Rudradaman was powerful and he was resourceful enough to repair and continue the good works of his predecessor. Next ruling dynasty to flout this tradition again was the Satavahanas. We have already seen how Satavahanas have deviated from the norms of Brahmanical tradition time and again. Now, how did they deviate from the norm here too? So there was a ruler in the Satavahana dynasty called Gautami Putra Siri Satakani. Now, if you remember clearly, it is the Satavahanas who derived their name from the names of their mother. But this Gautami Putra Siri Satakani, he was given the title of being a unique Brahman and the destroyer of pride of Kshatriyas. It looks like he was very much inspired by the story of Lord Pashuram. So he claimed himself to be one following his footsteps. So what is the story of Pashuram? Some of you might be knowing it, other kindly Google it. So on one hand, he's claiming that he ensured that people of different varnas did not intermarry. So he is basically saying he's trying to uphold the social order. But on the other hand, evidence suggests that he himself went into marriage alliance with the kin of Rudradaman. Rudradaman of the Shaka dynasty, Shakas who were considered outsiders. So what does this imply? This implies that either this marriage was carried out for political convenience or for keeping a political motive in mind, or that the rulers were above the law. Okay, so the normal law of the land did not apply to them at certain circumstances. So this might have been the case with Gautamiputra Sirisatakani.